time, I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Dysart Unified School District Governing Board to order. Let the record reflect that all board members are present with the exception of Dawn Dunsmore. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to our public hearing for fiscal year 2019-2020 expenditure budget revision. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, members of cabinet. Each time that the district revises its budget, there is a state law that requires that there be a public hearing, and so Mr. Ken Hicks will introduce the information and proceed with the public hearing.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Kellis, colleagues, and community members. I'm very proud to present our 2019-2020 budget revision number 1 in our public hearing tonight. Just to build on what Dr. Kellis just said about why we're here and why that it is required in that sense. I also think it's just good practice to always publicly talk about our budget as many times as possible. We do it proposed in June, we do the adopted in July, first revision in December, and second revision in May. So 4 times if you add in our AFR and also our IBA and budget approved, board approved budget items for the following year, it's roughly 6 times a year that we get in front of the board and officially talk about a budget and stuff. So I do think it's a good thing. So I'll go quickly over some of the items here. First is our M&O budget, our maintenance and operation. This is our main budget. And we have an increase. You can see it's roughly around $2.8 million. The two main reasons why we have the increase. Number one is we have more students than we budgeted for. So there was an increase in students. And number 2 is, as we mentioned when we did our annual financial report in October, which was once we identify what the final amounts in the previous year, we roll forward our carry forward, although we estimate that amount and projected, it was projected a little low. So we have an increase in our carry forward, we have an increase in the number of students that generated. So we allocate that out where the number one thing is that with the students, the increase in our average daily membership, our students also comes with a cost in that sense because we had to hire more staff. So we projected and budgeted our proposed budget on 22,500 students. There's roughly 22,800, a little over that. The 320 increase did cause us to hire about 15 more teachers, staff members that corresponded with that. So there's an increase in revenue, there's a corresponding increase in expenses, and that is allocated through our M&O budget, as you can see here. I will say, when we revise our budget again in May, our ADM will probably go down a little bit. That is, there's an AOI component in Arizona Online Instruction, so that online component, until students complete the class and submit to ADE at that point, we do not know what kind of impact that has on our budget. We could estimate it, but it's never finalized. It's actually not finalized until July after the year ends. And so there'll be a decrease as it goes, but it's not evident early on. And so we anticipate that with a little, and also a little bit of attrition. That is our M&O budget. On the capital side, you have a little bit of an increase, and that is purely carry forward. So where M&O is current year funded, the capital is not current year funded, and so that's based on last year. And so we increased it just a small amount, just over $100,000, about $140,000, and that is all just because of the carry forward going up. The Emergency Building Renewal Grant Program, we estimated this back when we put our proposed together end of May, early June, about $100,000. This is the School Facilities Board component to when facilities fail. We're able to go to them and increase or ask them to cover the cost as long as it is in violation of the minimum standards that the board has approved. And we have revised our budget up to $658,000. That is what we've had approved so far, and we continue. I think there's another agenda item on tonight, and there's more on January. Bob, our facilities director, Mr. Bob Young, and his team continue to do a great job as soon as we identify it, we have a great relationship with the SFB and our liaison to submit it or talk to them really quickly, which helps us identify those items that are eligible and to minimize the disruption in the classroom as soon as possible. And so he's done a great job with that. I think you've heard me say at previous meetings, I think we'll be up over $1 million on this program to continue to go through the School Facilities Board in that sense. The Classroom Site Fund also is really, this is just when the AFR got done, we are rolling forward those revised budgets. This, as a reminder, this is the Prop 301 funding. It's funded by two main sources, which is the increase in sales tax and the state trust land. Those two go in and identify it, but once we do our AFR and we finalize our last year's, we roll over we estimate conservatively on that, and so we have that increase. These amounts have to stay in these funds. You cannot move these amounts to anywhere else, and so this is an increase of $278,000, and so it rolls into those same funds and is calculated as we go forward with our IBA and for our teachers. This is mainly just all certified staff, classroom teachers mainly. Special projects funds, this gets updated as we get approved. Either federal or state grants get approved, and then we update the amounts. And so this is just getting an increase and also some rollover when that happens. We finalize our AFR, that also rolls over. We add them to the appropriate grants, include them here. The food service fund, as we were tracking that, has increased activity. They're selling a little bit more meals, so their actions or activities going up. So we revise that budget upwards to $10 million. To $10 million from 9.5. So just in summary, we make a lot of changes. They're really mainly attributed to one of two amounts, changes in ADM. That is what primarily our budget's based on. Increase of our students. ADM is average daily membership. So we had an increase in the number of students in our system so far this year, and then also the adjustment of carry amounts. There was a slight change to the previous year amount, so I didn't talk about it on that M&O slide, but we also took a decrease. ADE notified us that one of our special ed components, something was reported or identified, and they zeroed out that amount, and so we lost a couple $100,000, and also the AOI adjustment. So previous year adjustment was taken into consideration. We're working with ADE right now to restore that. We do think it'll be restored, so that will have an impact of probably increasing our budget in May when we do it. We like to take that decrease right now as we work through it, just to make sure. We know there's some decrease because there's an AOI component, so probably $60,000 is for sure to go down. We took the whole roughly almost $300,000 in anticipation, but working through ADE with that special ed, previous year special ed education that we have to, the services that were provided that not accounted for, and so we're working on that with them. And then ADE, as we said, I mentioned the grants, and then the increase in the food service program. So that really sums up our change in our revised budget. Normally, I go through the Rainbow Report in detail. It did not change that much because almost all the change is just on the M&O, a little bit on the classroom side, a little bit on the additional, but really not substantial. And all the expenses, majority in the 1,000 and 2,100. So I'm not going to go through line by line comparison. It is more relevant at the AFR time and when we get down to the final. The slight increase was the percent budgeted on the very top left, percent budgeted for under 1,000 was at roughly 61.75 roughly, so it went up 0.5%. And then the next category over went up about 0.25%. Everything else went down a little bit. That did not mean that we made cuts in district administration, school administration, central, plan, or transportation. It really meant that when we added to the budget, they all stayed around the same. The other going up means it has a small, slight proportional decrease. So it really had almost no impact on the rest of those areas. And I do like to highlight anytime we're at a public hearing or revising or talking about our budget that people can go, our public can go to our website to look at any of the Auditor General reports that are done on the district, our annual budget, which is what I'm talking about right now, our annual financial report, which is when we finish the year, we post it online after approved by the board, our comprehensive annual financial report, much detailed, about 160, 180 pages long, in extreme financial detail, and then the budget worksheets, although they're incorporated into the annual budget, the way the Auditor General's changed the forms in that sense, but all of it is on our website, and so we encourage our community and anybody that'd like to learn a little bit more or good sleeping material, please go to our website and look at our budget. And then before we stand for questions, I'd just like to say that I'd like to thank Ms. Marydale Spadal and her team. There she is, thank you very much. And her team that put a lot of the work together and do a lot of what we have. And so we have a great team, and just like to thank them for all their hard work and very proud of what they do. And also, before we stand for questions from our community or the board, there's an action item later that's exactly the same as this, and I'll have no additional comments or presentation at that time. So I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? So at this time, I invite any members of the public who may wish to make a comment to the podium at this time. Not seeing anyone approach the podium, so we'll go ahead and continue on with our regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. We'll move to the agenda form. Approval of the agenda form. I move the board approve this agenda form consistent with governing board policy and temporarily suspend any policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to recognitions and celebrations. First with an elementary performance. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. We are always thrilled when we have students who bring their talents to a board meeting. This evening, Dr. Poling will introduce this item.
Madam President, members of the board, cabinet, and community, very excited tonight to introduce the Riverview Drum Line led by Mr. Bedoya. So please take it away.
Great job, Riverview. Thank you so much. So what are the grade levels that are represented here?
5th and 6th grade.
Awesome job, guys. Do you have fun when you play? Yeah?
Yeah.
How long have you guys had a drum line?
About like 5 weeks.
Wow. You guys are amazing. Rock stars over there. Good job. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Those things are not light.
Okay, next we'll move to American Heart Association Workplace Health Achievement. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of Cabinet. And continuing our tradition of extraordinary performances from the work done in the Business Services Department, Ken Hicks will present this item.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Kellis, colleagues, community members. Once again, very proud to present to you another award that Dysart has won. And this, as you may remember, we've won quite a few wellness awards over the last couple years and continue. Really, it's on the backs of our benefits supervisor, Ms. Janice Peel. Does an amazing job really looking out for anywhere and everywhere we can grow in our opportunities and anything and everything connected to wellness. It always has an eye for it, and so does a good job. So it doesn't not just includes just physical wellness, but also sometimes mental wellness, and we've increased to doing financial wellness classes and other things as well for our staff. And so looking for all those, this is the American Heart Association. It evaluates member organizations to determine the quality and effectiveness of the workplace health programs. And Dysart is being recognized for the second year in a row. Last year, it won the bronze. This year, we won the gold level recognition. So congratulations to Janice under the direction of Miss Marydell Spadell. Does an amazing job. It is a national award, and Dysart was the only school district in Arizona to receive this, and one of only 3 organizations to get the gold level from Arizona. So we did a good job, and so I'd just like to congratulate them for that.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Congratulations. So what's emotional wellness look like in Dysart?
So we do have the EAP, the Emotional Assistance Program, so it allows for contacting professionals when there is that. So we try to communicate all that there is out there. So we do Zumba classes, we offer lots of other things and collaborations and teamwork and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's everything involved in it.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, next we move to recognition of Shadow Ridge High School for achieving an A label from the Arizona Department of Education. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of Cabinet. Every once in a while, there's a first, and we are so very proud of Shadow Ridge High School, who achieved a first, being the first high school in Dysart to earn the A label from the state of Arizona. This is, yes, very, very important because of all the hard work. It has been a long history of excellence under the direction of Principal Michael Hawkins, and we congratulate him for his leadership team, as well as all the staff through the years who have gotten what had to be done at Shadow Ridge. So congratulations.
I would just like to echo Dr. Kellis's comments as well, and I'm thankful, Dr. Kellis, that we were able to take some time just to celebrate you all outside. I know we did our normal school label presentation, but like Dr. Kellis said, this is the first. It's a huge deal, and it certainly is reflective of your team. Mr. Hawkins, I remember going on your campus in a hard hat, you know, and Shadow was being built, and I knew then, I mean, your positive energy is just something that is just embedded in that campus, and clearly your team has embraced that as well. And with your I've always thought that your signature of home, that really is just more than an acronym. You guys live that clearly. I mean, you're doing amazing things. So I'm just glad we could celebrate you, and congratulations to you, your entire team at Shadow, and you're definitely blazing the trail for our other high schools to follow suit, following your example. So congratulations to all of you. Next, we move to audience with individuals. Mr. Leonard?
We have one. I'll read the statement. During regular meetings, district residents, staff, members, parents, and students may address the board during the session. Order of business. The public may address the board during the audience with individuals segment near the beginning. This is a time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431. Action taken as a result of the comments will be limited to directing the staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further considerations and discussions at a later date. In order to facilitate the accomplishment of the business, we direct business of the district in a timely manner. The time of limit of 3 minutes will be set. Please state your name as you come forward. And it's going to be Beth Simic.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Kellis, members of the board and staff. My name is Beth Simic, and I am a proud parent of Dysart Unified School District student and graduate. I am very proud of the education that my grade schooler is receiving over at Mountain View Elementary. He's learning coding, he's learning higher level math skills and cooperative learning at 8 years old that many of my colleagues in my business world would be jealous of. Every day he comes home, he tells me about some new concept that he has learned at Mountain View and how his teacher has really embraced his learning style. He is not a kid that can sit down with worksheets, and I hear titters of laughter in the background, and I know they know my child. He does not sit down and do work. It is not his thing, and his teacher has graciously worked with him in order to make learning fun for him and make him want to be at school every day and to help him succeed and not just conform. My college student is a recent graduate from Shadow Ridge High School, and while he was an average high schooler academically at Shadow Ridge, this is his first semester at Ottawa University, he's on the Dean's List. He's on the Dean's List this year because of the bases that he received in his education at Shadow Ridge High School. Shadow Ridge not only caught him up in the areas where he was lacking when he attended his charter school in elementary, but they built him into a college and career-ready student who is ready to learn, who is career-minded, and he is succeeding because of that base that he received at Shadow Ridge. Shadow Ridge earned their A rating from the Department of Education for a reason. Mr. Hawkins is amazing. Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Greenway, and the students and the staff and the teachers at Shadow Ridge High School are the reason why I moved from El Mirage to make sure that my third grader can go to school at Shadow Ridge High School. I am very grateful also to the staff here in the Dysart District Office. Dr. Kellis, you have breathed new life into this district that, as a parent who has been here for 12 years, is refreshing. It is an amazing thing to see that you guys are doing projects like cooperating with the Salvation Army this past week and reaching out to the community and really creating an environment where people want to be involved in Dysart. So thank you to the teachers and the staff members here in the district for doing that. I am so proud to be a parent in this district, and I am so proud of the great things that are going on here. So thank you very much for that. And most importantly, Mr. Hawkins, you can never retire. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Next, we move to Superintendent and Governing Board updates. We'll start with our student update from Ariana Carano from Shadow Ridge High School.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Kellis, and the cabinet. My name is Ariana, and I'm a member of the District Leadership Council. Yesterday, DLC did have the opportunity to have a brief meeting with all of our DLC members, and we have come to the conclusion that we will be hosting the District Leadership Council Conference at one of the high schools this year. And this year, it will be held at Willow Canyon, and years to follow, it'll swap. We also took a few minutes to think about what the district can improve on or change to improve the district's mission to be Dysart Extraordinary. And our council members have plenty of ideas, and we're excited for them to be reviewed by Mr. G and Dr. Kellis. We also got our social media accounts up and running, where we will be posting updates regarding DLC and each of the site's community events. And they can be followed at Dysart Council on Instagram and Twitter, and we look forward to another extraordinary year. That's it for students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to superintendent update. Dr. Kellis.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Ariana, for your report. It's refreshing to see our students taking leadership roles in the district. Some great things are happening. A lot of great things have happened. Right now, we are just on the fringe of celebrating our 100th anniversary. So we would like to show the governing board the temporary logo for our 100th anniversary. And the picture on the bottom is not the logo, but it shows where we've been and where we're going. So 100 years of excellence in Dysart. As many may be aware, I'm just going to put this right over here for a second. As many may know, Dysart has been a small community for many years, and we've grown up. We are one of the top 10 large districts in the state of Arizona, and the next 100 years will continue to be just as adventurous and productive, and we're looking forward to that. The actual anniversary year starts in July, but we want to extend as much of the celebration as possible, so we will be hosting events and different activities starting in January, just to start getting the momentum going, and then starting in July, the excitement will really get started, and we'll celebrate for the entire year. So just wanted to introduce that. Also wanted to share that we have had some very exciting things happening academically, as Cabinet has been around to all of the A-label schools, Shadow Ridge High School, Canyon Ridge School, Sonoran Heights, Cimarron Springs, and Sunset Hills. Great things all over the district, and we congratulate these schools for their labels. In the arts, it's that time of year where there are a lot of performances happening associated with dance concerts, choir concerts, band concerts, and more concerts, as it's been a semester of preparing for and now celebrating the talents of our extraordinary students. And we appreciate all of the adults who have helped these extraordinary students get to this point to be able to perform. And also athletically, it's difficult to see a season end. We had some great finishes with a lot of our athletes, many who achieved regional and state level performances. So we congratulate all the athletes. Also congratulate all of the all-district team members who were selected for each of the supports, and congratulate them. So the 3 A's, arts, academics, and athletics, have been very prominent in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to governing board update. I just want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a very happy, peaceful holiday season and Happy New Year, and get rest and come back refreshed to start the rest of the year. So happy holidays to everybody. Anyone else?
Just a couple of quick things. I attended the Dysart on Wheels, or Produce on Wheels, that was held over at Dysart Elementary, and it's great to see the teachers and the staff get behind that and actually push the different type of foods that are out there that come to the valley just for people that actually need it. So it was a great turnout. No smushed tomatoes this year, right, Mr. Leonard? But it was a great turnout. Attended the parent advisory meeting last Monday, and the topic of discussion was parliamentary procedures for mostly geared towards PTAs and PTOs and of that nature. So it was an interesting thing, and anyone in this room or is watching can actually learn to be a parliamentarian. So if you're interested, talk to Dr. Kellis. He can get you to Maria, I think his name was. Attended the Sonoran Heights A celebration this morning. It was great, and there was some food left over, right, Mr. Dean? Right. But congratulations to all the schools that made the A label. And I just wanted to echo Dr. Kellis's thing, especially regards to celebrating our athletes. We had the district awards ceremonies of all of our athletes and over the past couple of weeks, and it is great to see our kiddos walk across this the stage over here and just resonate athletics. And I would just like to see those kiddos in 5 years to see if they continued on with college or, you know, in professional sports or anything like that. But congratulations to all of them. They were A+++. Congratulations, Shadow Ridge. I'm a graduate of, I have one of you at home, and he is very excited for that. Everybody, please have a safe holiday, and we hope to see you back in January. So thank you for all you do.
I got to attend the produce at Dysart as well, and it was amazing to see just how many students were participating this year. That was fun. Several different clubs. I won't mention them all because I'm sure I'll forget one. I don't want to feel bad for that, but thank you for all the student participation in that. And congratulations to Shadow Ridge. I think there's still a little bit of icing on your face there, though. Well done. Well done to you and your team, and thanks for taking the lead on that. And we look forward to everybody else following you very quickly. Merry Christmas, and hope you all have a wonderful holiday season with your families, and you're all healthy and wealthy and wise.
And I don't have anything to report as far as attendance, but I just wanted to say that I've had conversations with people within the community who have loved, and I just wanted to make sure I mention it before I forget it, the Super N60. And how they have felt more in the know of what's going on in Dysart. I've had people say, I actually know who the superintendent is, which a lot of times they didn't know who the superintendent was of our district. And so, and they said, they feel like that they feel like they could approach you and talk to you. And I love that you've used social media to be able to kind of get the public to get to know Dysart, not just Dysart better, but you know, the administration better and things like that. So I just wanted to report that has had a very good positive influence within the community. So I just want to make sure I said that.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to motion to approve the consent agenda items. I move the board approve consent agenda items as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes.
Yes, I can vote now.
I voted. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to information items. Information item 1, Policy Governance Board Monitoring of Adopted Policy, Section 7, Personnel, Section 7.0 to 7.32. Dr. Keller.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of Cabinet. Continuing the consistent tradition of the district to monitor its policies on a regular basis, Mr. Dean will introduce this item.
Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Kellis, and members of Cabinet, this evening we bring to you Section 7, the first part of Section 7, I should say, first half. We do have one recommended change, and that is in Policy 7.22. The recommended change is in two parts. The first, we recommend changing the number of years for teaching experience that we provide to new hires coming into our district. We're recommending a change from 5 years of experience to granting up to 7 years of experience, which is consistent with other school districts around us. The second part of our policy change recommendation for 7.22 has to do with what kind of service is recognized regarding teaching service, and we are recommending including private school experience, given that when the teacher was teaching in a private school, they held a valid teaching certificate. And of 30 districts that were surveyed regarding this topic, 26 of the 30 do give private school experience if the teacher was credentialed during that time appropriately. So those are the two changes that we have for first read this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So this covers all staff, not just teachers? As far
This
as-
particular policy is for professional staff salary schedules.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, I just wanted to state that I am glad that we were giving 7 years instead of 5, although I would love to give 20 and 30, but I think it's moving in the right direction, so thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move to information item 2, information on the National Student Clearinghouse Post-High School Student Success. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of Cabinet. It's important that not only do we know how our students are performing who are currently enrolled in our district, but how are our students performing after they leave the district. And this evening, we will receive a report, and I'll ask Dr. Pulling to introduce this item.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kellis, and community, my pleasure to introduce Dr. Weifrich, our Director of Research, and she will present on this topic.
Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Kellis, and Cabinet, tonight we are going to present the clearinghouse data, national clearinghouse data. This is the enrollment slide from National Clearinghouse immediately after high school. We are slightly stagnant, but at a later slide I will include items that we've put in place to help increase these numbers. As you can see, overall, this year is 47%, the previous year was 46%. This is by institutional level. So it is a breakdown. As you can see, you have the 2-year institutions and the 4-year institutions. The 21 and 26 total the 47%, so it's just another way of showing it. They broke it down. This is the breakdown of our high schools in the district total. We range from 39% to 55%, with our overall district being 47%. We're fairly consistent, and we have slight growth going on. This is a persistence rate for the second year, the freshman to sophomore persistence rate. So 81% of those freshmen persist into their sophomore year. And then they break it down, persistence rate, again, by public versus private. So you can see the public versus private number, 81% versus 85% of those students that went public or private, and their persistence rate. This slide I included, the clearinghouse does not define what years they include in this slide, but it is the common institutions to Dysart. So it's interesting over a period of time, the commonalities are where our kids actually attend. You'll notice that there's a couple out-of-state situations. I would just like to note Ottawa, they list Kansas. They're probably very likely talking about Arizona. So the other out-of-state situation in the top is Utah. So these are the institutions that our students choose to go to. This is CTE students post-graduation placement data. CTE does not differentiate between trade school and college. They combine the two into one category, and they work a year behind. But this is another data tracking source that we use, and this is one of the few data tracking sources that we have that actually include military tracking, because the military does not track or share with us what they track. So I was told last year there was a question in regards to graduates. The National Clearinghouse, they track what they consider graduates on a 6-year plan. So this is actually, the slide you're looking at is the 2013 class, and they track that class for a period of 6 years. This gets very interesting because you can see new to college, students that graduated in 2013, actually in the year 18-19, 9 students still decided, I'm going to start college. So keep in mind, this is just 1 year of tracking over a 6-year span. Not an NSC to date. Those are students that they have been unable to find. So you have your persistence rate. You have also interesting kids that stop out, that start and stop. 2 years later, they start to go back. 3 years later, they start to return. 4 years later, they start to return. So it gives us good data on the fact that sometimes kids go that first year, but that doesn't mean it's over and done for them. Year 3, 4, 5, 6, they decide to go back. So we have a lot of supports and interventions in place. Dr. Asai works with high school departments and counselors to be sure that FAFSA nights, career fairs, college visits are in place. We have a very active CTE department with Mr. Grieshaber, including fairs and events. We have district level events, school level events, Avid campuses. We work continuously to increase our dual enrollment, our AP classes, our dual enrollment for CTE. Those students statistically who earn early college credits tend to go on to college. So those are the things that we track and the supports that we have in place. Do you have any questions regarding the National Clearinghouse data?
I just have one question for clarification, or just about the data. As far as the percent of students enrolled in college that fall immediately after high school, at the 47% for all institutions, how is that in comparison to other districts? 47%.
I can actually pull the data and answer the question for you. I will tell you it's pretty average. There are some districts that get up into the 60s and 70s, and we continue to work on that. But if you want exact numbers, I'm more than happy to provide that to you.
Oh, thank you. No, I just was just curious in general, kind of where we fall. So if that's average, and then there's some that are in the 60s and 70s, just off the top of your head, do you know what's different between our district and some of those districts that are in 60s and 70s that they provide?
We have actually asked ourselves that question, and we've looked at that data, and we don't have a whole lot of differences. There's nothing that actually, we went to Helios and we looked at all of our data as a cabinet team. There's nothing that actually pops out at us that says, oh my gosh, you're not doing this. You know, Dr. Asai spends a lot of time working on all of that, out to the schools, making sure that our schools are doing the career fairs, that are doing the things. I will say on a side note, and I can't give you the data, so I hesitate to say it, I believe that the battle is up for this because we are raising a generation that believe that they can become millionaires without college. And that's just the generation that we're in right now. So I think that as those students move through, the years 3, 4, 5, and 6 out of school become much more valuable, and that data is really important for us to keep looking at because we're going to see kids returning to school when they understand the value of, I'm not going to make $1 million overnight on the World Wide Web.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions?
I think I know the answer to this. The count of class of 2013 post-secondary enrollment in progress. The class for 2013/14 where it says graduated, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line down, and it has 5. Just by chance, is that 5 students that probably were taking college courses
Absolutely.
during the time, and then all of a sudden they
Absolutely.
just graduated? Okay, because I was thinking that's a low number, but we have students that
Well,
they only needed a
traditionally, it
few
would be
more.
4 years.
Right.
Okay. The Clearinghouse believes in track 6. They always track 6 years on everything.
No, I was talking about the number 5.
Right, so that was a student who took a lot of college classes, maybe an IB student who just finished up and graduated early. For us, that would be the best example I could give you is an IB student with an IB diploma who has junior to senior level college credits already and go in for 1 year and then they're through the system.
But Madam President, Ms. Sawyer-Sepa, you're correct that those are 5 students who graduated from college apparently the year they graduated from high school.
Right.
The year after, 12-13. This is 1 year
Okay,
after.
13/14. So that's why I was thinking that they were probably dual enrollment or taking classes in their junior and senior year
Right.
with
So
us.
13-14 would be 1 year out.
1 year out.
Okay.
Jeez. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we move to information item 3, information on Arizona's College and Career Readiness Index. Dr. Callis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board and members of cabinet. In an effort to help the board understand exactly what goes into a high school label, as we have had a lot of discussion this evening about school labels, We would like to share with the board information about the Arizona College and Career Readiness Index. And again, Dr. Poling will introduce this item.
Yes. Good evening. Once again, I'll turn over to Dr. Weifrich, and thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Callis, and Cabinet. This is just a quick review of the A through F accountability system. We know it's the law. The letter grades include all of these bullets. I did the first few slides of review for you just for a reminder before we get to the actual CCRI index. You've seen this model before. This is to remind you that college and career ready is worth 20%. It is the second highest percentage other than proficiency used in the model. Again, it's 20% in high school. Just to point out a couple of things, schools must have 10 students in the cohort to be eligible for points. So any cohort that is less than, which we won't have, but as you go through the indicators on the slide that I gave you, the A through F accountability plan, the paper that I gave you, a lot of those things are based on the fact that you must have an N count of 10. This is a quick review of our CCRI points for the last couple of years for each of the 4 high schools. And then we're going to talk about scoring. So a student that accumulates 1 indicator point will generate 10 points. A student that accumulates 2 indicator points will generate 20 points. These can be all one color, red or blue, or one of each color, red and blue. A student that gets 1 point in red and 1 point in blue will also get the 20 points plus 2 bonus points. So those bonus points become very important. So we work very hard to make sure that students get what we call the blue side and the red side. I wrote down the indicator points for you on this slide. There are indicator points that are very important, some much more important than others. I will share with you that the ABOR points are very important. When you look on the blue side of ABOR, if we have students who get the Arizona Board of Regents, complete all of those points, they actually get their 1 blue point. They don't have to worry about anything else. The Arizona Merit, Algebra 2 and ELA 11, we know that's going to be a component that's going to change now because we're moving to not an end of course assessment, but a 10th grade test. ACT, we're moving to have every 11th grader take ACT. So there are things here that are more important. Dual enrollment is more important. And the reason I say that is because everyone has access to these things. Things that we get points for, like IB diploma or IB exam or Cambridge exams, those aren't available to every high school because not every high school is an IB school or a Cambridge school. On the red side, we have most of the time FAFSA will fall on the red side. It can be the only thing in the indicators that can go red or blue. We place FAFSA student by student last because we look at points and we want everyone to get the most point value. So we do those by hand at the end for every senior. The red side is also extremely CTE heavy, and it also includes ASVAB. There are things here that we don't do. I made them orange for you because our district doesn't CLEP. We don't have Cambridge A, AS. That is another form of Cambridge. We do have IGSE, but we don't have Cambridge A. We don't do ALEX or Compass or ACT work keys. So it's important to note that we have to utilize the things that we do in this district and that we have available for students, and we really monitor those. We began monitoring these things very early in the game. 10th grade, 9th grade, we are looking at students who really need to take foreign language to get ABOR. Foreign language is not required in this district, but in order to go to college, you have to have 2 years of foreign language. And if we can push that through the counseling system and help kids recognize that, they're very important points to us because this is what the state has told us is important. Whether we believe it or not, this is what they have said is important. And you'll notice on here, one of the things that many districts are standing for is there aren't any arts on this. So there's no points for arts anywhere. So we are really, many districts are working with the State Board of Education. And I'll also put a note in there. Friday is a State Board of Education meeting, and on the agenda is the A through F. So again, it'll be on the agenda Friday. So it's an ever-changing process, and we work hard at it, but we're always playing catch-up to keep up with the state and what they consider to be the important parts of it. So I gave you a sheet. If you look at the chart, on one side are kind of instructions for you, and on the other side, I actually gave you school examples. So it's important to note that every row is an individual student. Every senior has a row. So this is how we work through this one by one. I numbered a couple of examples that I'll go through with you. On the left side of your chart, the first 3 columns, there's a total column, a blue column, and a red column. Example number 1 is line 1. The first line has numbers greater than or equal to 1.0 in both areas of blue and red. Therefore, they get 10 points for each area, totaling 20 points, and a bonus point of 2 because they have red and blue. 22 is the highest point value that any given student can receive. This is an example of an actual high school. At the top, you can see they have 425 graduates. The total points the state awarded was 18.2. If you'll look at example number 2, which is line 4, there is 1.5 blue and a 0.75 red. They have a total of 2.25. 2 points are worth 20. However, because they don't have 1 red and 1 blue, they only get 20 and there's no bonus points. Example number 3 on line 8. There is a total of 1.75. 1 point for blue and a 0.75 for red. It does not total 2. They get 10 points for the 1 blue point and they get no points for the red point. So I'll address in a later slide, but I want to point out to you that no points for a red point, there's something we work on now, is if we could have gotten that student into FAFSA, that could have been a red point. If we could have had that student take an ASVAB, that could be a red point. So we work individually on each student. Every high school, their APs and their counselors work on every student to make sure that we're targeting both sides of this equation and we're getting the most bang for our buck, for lack of a better term, bang for our student points, while realizing that it's also, these are students, they're not just points. So we have to make sure that they're completing their needs and we're giving them college and career readiness that they deserve. The last example I have is line 9. Total points, 0.75. There's a 0.5 blue and a 0.25 red. This is a total of 0.75. There's not a 1.0 anywhere, so no points were awarded to this student. We continually think about our data, meaning our students and areas of focus along with their strengths. So things that we've put in place and things that we've been changing this year, we are really trying to encourage students to take that foreign language, that ABOR point. If a student gets his ABOR, that's 1 point automatically. Working on our Arizona merit scores, although we know there's going to be changes in that because we aren't giving an 11th grade assessment any longer. We have all of the 11th graders taking the ACT, all of the 11th graders taking ASVAB. We want those points. Now, they do have to score within the realm of what they consider high enough to receive the points. That can become a problem when you have a student who, just puts his name in on the ASVAB and doesn't finish the test. But we are working at explaining to students why it's important. Maybe you don't want to go to the military, but the ASVAB does give you things that you accelerate in, and it can help you make decisions. We've worked very hard this year to increase AP classes into enrollment classes. I know Dr. Sy works on that continuously. In research, we are tracking things quarterly now, things like FAFSA. We know at every high school how many students have started their FAFSA, how many students have finished it. We're giving that data to the APs on a quarterly basis. And we're doing things at the high school level to be sure that we're holding those classes and we're getting those kids to, even if you don't know what you want to do, we want you to do your FAFSA. We want you to open it up and start it. CTE courses, Mr. Grieshaber is all over this, his department all the time. Again, there are things that you can't double dip on, but singleton CTE courses, one of the things I realized this year, or my department realized this year, is that Sundown had a huge value. Most of the students at Sundown are seniors, and there's about 170 students at Sundown. So this year we were working with Mr. Capuano, and we're making sure all of those kids are accessing FAFSA. We're making sure we have them scheduled to take the ASFAB, the whole group of kids. We're talking about the fact that Sundown starts later in the day, so they can literally take a CTE course before they go to Sundown, because there aren't any CTE courses at Sundown, but we're making that happen, courses that they can take, especially if they're a student that has one course and needs a completer course. So we're working with counselors to identify those things. We're tracking more work-based learning hours, and we've started tracking the military on our own system because, again, the military will not report out. So there's a lot of things in place that we continually work on and are trying to grow our students with, and those are the supports that we've put in place. So are there any questions? I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, thank you for all the information. So as far as the red and the blue, I mean, I agree that for the red to get a point, just completing the FAFSA. So are our counselors actually tasked with, or has it been highly encouraged that they make a point to meet with their students and say, okay, and actually have this in mind as far as what pieces are you missing and helping them kind of?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Absolutely.
like with the FAFSA, I mean, since that is such an easy thing that anyone can do, I mean, it's a
Well, they have
awful
to have their
form.
serial number. They have to have their social security number. And
Yeah.
that's a bit of a problem for high school students. But we actually, our high schools, and Dr. Sai is worked on this. We have FAFSA nights, FAFSA afternoons, FAFSA during the day sometimes. We are attacking these areas wholeheartedly.
And that's what I'm saying, like, it's offering those opportunities, but if we're doing that, then you would think, based on all the opportunities we're providing, I'm hoping there wouldn't be a huge amount left that maybe haven't met that requirement or that goal, to where then with those students or families, I mean, I've seen other schools too, where you'll just still have a parent, like the breakfast. I can't remember, there was something last year, I think maybe it was Valley, where counselors sent something out to parents, and it's like, come in, we'll have donuts, or we'll have whatever, and you're going to learn more about.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that way too, it's not like you'd have to do a lot of those throughout the year, because hopefully you can capture most students the way that you're doing it now. But my main thing is just, that can be such an easy point. I know it's easier said than done, but technically, because not everyone's going to do dual enrollment, and not everybody's going to do, CTE courses and things. But if we can help, and our counselors are actually making a point to meet with students and look at that, it sounds like that's something that we can accomplish and track.
Well, we're working on it. They're working on it every month.
Okay.
And we have aligned most of these individual items into our ISS system. So we've built the ISS back out, and principals and APs and counselors have the ability to look at all of these things. Everything is uploaded every time. It's every month. Every time we get it, we re-upload into ISS, so we have a better tracking system on each of these individual areas for all of our students. And again, we are working on ABOR right now, the research department is, and we would like that to start at the 9th grade level, so we can see students' progress as they move from 9th grade to 10th grade to 11th grade to 12th grade. Those classes become very important. Again, foreign language is the key to earning your ABOR points. We do everything else that's required. So there are areas that we are really trying to focus on, and all 4 high schools, all 4 principals have met with the research department, and we've gone through each of these individual, in fact, we've met more than once with them, each of them, and spent time diagnosing and figuring out areas that we can improve in. Sundown, I believe, is a valuable catch. I realize that each high school only has 40 slots, but most of those slots are seniors. So, and it is an alternative school, therefore, a lot of times students go to Sundown because they're not on track, and they become very successful there. But there are things that we, again, working with Mr. Capuano, that we want to hit Sundown with, just like the FAFSA, the ASVAB, that the CTE course. Those are things that we're trying to put in place to make sure that we're getting the most points out of every situation.
Now, for the foreign language, does that have to be just every year? Is it that you look at student, I mean, I know you need the 2 years ideally to get into a university, but I think there's a feel out there, our students are becoming more aware that you can technically go into universities with a deficiency.
Absolutely, and that's part of the problem. Students are aware that they can go with a deficiency, okay? And so that is part of the problem. And
so what are we doing to kind of fix that piece of it? Because that's kind of making students maybe not necessarily worry so much about those foreign language classes.
They don't. And so counselors work with them. We try to push them. We, this is get you into a university. And again, different high schools work on that. It's a counseling process. It's when they're signing up for their classes, when they're doing their ECAPs and those kinds of things. So it's an individual student situation. And again, we put our hands multiple times on individual students throughout this entire process.
And with so many, very few counselors and so many students, these counselors I know have just huge caseloads with these students. Is it still possible, though, for counselors do they have the time available to them to where when a student turns in their course selection guide, their counselor is able to say, okay, but wait, let's look. Where is it that you want to go? What's your plan and your goal? Are these going to fit into where you need to be? And, gee, are we getting a blue point and a red point? I mean, is it that involved ever, or is it just kind of there's not a lot of time to do all that?
Well, I think counselors meet with ECAPs with all students throughout the year, and I think the curriculum, the C&I assistant principal, they are very involved in this process, and we spend a lot of time with principals and with APs in regards to this process. So we actually identify lists of students for them that maybe especially significant is a student that has had 1 year of foreign language and not closed it out with a second year. We identify those students, those lists for each high school. We identify the students who haven't completed ASVAB. We identify students who haven't completed FAFSA. We identify students in CTE who haven't, again, we can't double dip, but if we have a student who has a singleton class meaning one class and they haven't completed the series, we identify those kids that they just need one completer class for a series. Now, I'm going to tell you that ultimately it is the student's decision and the parent's decision. They can still say, no, I'm not going to finish foreign language. I don't need it. No, I'm not going to we can only be persuasive in our knowledge when we meet and talk with these parents and these students, and that's what the counselors do and the APs do. And they have, I believe that in the last year, we've had many group settings with kids where we talk about these needs.
Okay, thank you. And one other quick question, because I'll tell you, the way you've described this and explained it with those examples, like I understand it a lot better than I ever have before, so I appreciate the time that you took to outline it that way. So just again, because I'm excited that now that I'm starting to kind of understand part of it, I'm going to ask you a question.
No, that's fine.
The 20% that we would get, as far as 20% of our points towards the label, what does that necessarily mean? Like 20% of all students in that school have to get the red and the blue, or is it just 20% of, can you explain that one piece?
So I can explain it for you mathematically. So this, for example, is Willow Canyon High School, okay? If every student at Willow Canyon, they had 425 graduates up there. You can see the number up top, 425. That's the number of graduates they had. Number of seniors. If every student got 22 points, they had a possible point value of 9,350. Okay?
Okay.
They actually received 7,738 points, okay? They got 83% of their points available to them. How do they get their 20%? The points received divided by the number of graduates gives you the 18.2 percentage of the 20. So they got 18.2 out of 20. And it is the points received divided by the number of graduates.
Okay, so this is, I'm just looking at seniors?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments?
I think mine will be quick. I know the difference between the ACT and the ACT work keys. Why don't we offer ACT work keys? Is it because of cost?
As far as I know, we've never offered work keys, okay? I remember back when I was at Dysart High School, we offered a precursor to the ACT. We do offer a precursor now to the ACT, but it is based on student selection, and there's only about 250 students per high school that take it, and it's in 10th grade, and they pay for it themselves. So as we're just entering this world of ACT becoming for all 11th graders, one of the things that AD has come out with last week, and I meet with Dr. Kellis tomorrow morning, but we had thought the 11th grade test was going to be it in 2020-21. It's not. Apparently, we will be required to give a 9th grade test or a 10th grade test. We don't know what the menu of assessment will be on that test yet, but we will have to give one of those grade levels and the 11th grade ACT. So right now, ADE is talking about 2 tests, not just an 11th grade ACT test, but another test for 9th or 10th. It will be the choice of the district, and there will be a menu available for the district to choose from. So we don't have any of that. Again, this is, we work as fast as we can when we get the information fed to us. As of right now, the business rules for this, for last year, have not been approved. So they don't approve the business rules until all of this is done, and then you get the cut numbers on the business rules. So it's a little bit backwards, but we will be looking at what we have to do in 9th or 10th grade, and the district will be having to make a choice of, is it going to be a 9th grade test or a 10th grade test, and what on the menu are we going to go with? And I'm sure that will be Dr. Sai's area.
Okay.
So
She's hiding. She's hiding.
she's hiding back there.
She's hiding. No, I was just curious. I mean, because it is, you know, a pretty cool test. So I was just curious as to why. And just so you know, I took the ASVAB back in many moons ago, and I scored very high in aircraft mechanics.
You never know.
You never know. You never know. So thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you
Reed.
very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Okay, next we move to information item 4, enrollment communication update. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. As we enter into our open enrollment season, we'd like to present to the board some information about how we're going to approach that, and Mr. Dean will introduce this item.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Kellis, and members of cabinet, this evening we're happy to have Renee Ryan, our Director of Public Relations, with us to share information with the board.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kellis, and cabinet. We all know that Dysart has a lot to offer, and with open enrollment just launching last week, I just wanted to share with you some information about our plan for promoting enrollment throughout the district. So as we prepared a plan, we wanted to reach families with children 18 and under, and we wanted to talk about what makes Dysart great. So we developed a value proposition that kind of goes through what sets us apart and what we have to offer. And with enrollment being up, we obviously want to continue that wonderful momentum. And so ultimately, we developed these goals, but ultimately we just want to make sure that the larger community is aware of all of the enrollment options that we have, all of our schools, all of the programs, the great opportunities that they have so that they can make the best decisions for their families. The key messages that we have for our communications are that Dysart is a vibrant, growing school district focused on the 3 A's, as well as signature programs. We are Dysart Extraordinary. We have highly qualified, caring staff, successful students, and as a district, we are financially responsible, accountable, and transparent, and strive for efficient use of resources. So we just developed, this is a broad view of our strategies that we're hoping to incorporate this year. We will continue with a lot of our regular communications, but one of the first things we're actually doing is evaluating our current communications to make sure that we are doing the right things. We're talking to people in the right places. We're meeting them where they are, whether that's on social media, mailers, things like that. We just want to make sure that we know what's working and where we can improve, where we can be more efficient. And also looking at new avenues. One of the new avenues using the storytelling approach, we are actually looking at launching a new publication this spring called Community Connect, which we're really excited about, and I'll actually get to come up and talk a little bit more about that a little bit later tonight as well. But we're very excited. It's a new publication that will, the Achiever that we currently have reaches parents primarily, and this new publication will reach the broader community and have a broader appeal, and it will also allow for advertising of local businesses, which we think will be really a nice piece to help offset that cost. So we are very excited about our new plan, and we're looking forward to engaging with the broader community in a lot of new ways and sharing what options are available to them here in Dysart. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I did have one. I'm sorry. It's dealing with the goals, and you have in there, one of them is change perceptions within the community. And my question with that was just like, what certain perceptions are you seeing that you want to kind of correct and fix?
We see a lot of misinformation, I think, being shared sometimes about the district and leading to misperceptions with the district. Some of that may go to how effective they believe some of our schools are. Obviously, we have evidence that our schools are very effective, and we produce wonderful, productive students, citizens that go out in the world and are successful. So we just want to make sure that we're aware of those perceptions and are able to explain how we can meet all of the community's needs, and we have something for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Anything else?
Nope.
Awesome sauce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move to action discussion items. Action discussion 1, revision of governing board policy 1.0, district goals, second reading. Dr. Fellows.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. This is the second reading of policy changes to policy number 1, which are the board's goals. And there have been no changes since the first read. It is recommended for board approval.
Any questions or comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
I move the governing board approve revisions to policy 1.0, district goals as presented, second reading.
I'll second.
Motion made by Jennifer Tanner, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to action discussion item 2, recommendation to approve the appointment of arts director. Dr. Kellis.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. This is an historic evening as administration presents to the board a recommendation for Director of Arts. And Mr. John Croto will introduce this item.
Thank you, Dr. Kellis. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Kellis, and cabinet. It's with great pleasure we recommend Ms. Danae Marinelli for the position of Arts Director in our district. She has received a master's degree in instruction and curriculum from Ottawa, She has also been an employee in our district since 2002, and currently she is an academic facilitator in the Education Services Department. So it is with great pleasure she joins us here tonight, and we are recommending her for this position.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Now, I just wanted to say that this is, you have to live, breathe, smell, taste, touch arts, and I think Ms. Marinelli will do us very proud. She can probably see these things that are in the near future. She's probably already got things figured out in her brain, and but you have to have that type of brain in order to work with the arts. So I am very happy with this direction.
And Madam President, members of the board, she will be starting this year with us. So that's for her immediate start.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the appointment of Danae Marinelli as the Arts Director.
I will second that.
Motion made by Jay Leonard, seconded by Tracy Sawyer-Singville. Please cast your votes.
Did it come up?
I voted.
My neck is getting all.
I voted. Okay, well, I put yes. I don't know where it went.
You know where it went?
Motion carries. Congratulations. Next, we move to action discussion 3, recommendation to approve the appointment of Coordinator of Student Broadcasting and Multimedia Productions. Dr. Kellis.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of Cabinet. Madam President, I would just like to express great appreciation to the board for approval of these two positions as the Arts Director and as the Coordinator for Student Broadcasting. Again, Mr. John Croto will introduce this item.
Thank you, Dr. Kellis. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Kellis and Cabinet. Again, it's with great pleasure that we bring to you Mr. Brian Yoder as a recommendation for the position of Coordinator of Student Broadcasting and Multimedia Productions. Mr. Yoder has been an educator for over 20 years. Currently, he works in the Peoria Unified School District in the Peoria Student Broadcasting Network, where he was a founder of that Peoria Student Broadcasting Network. So we're excited to bring him over and offer him a position beginning in July of next year. So this will be a next year's appointment. So we are recommending Mr. Yoder for that position.
Is Mr. Yoder with us tonight?
He is not with us tonight. He is actually out of state, so I think he's watching.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the appointment of Brian Yoder as the Coordinator of Student Broadcasting and Multimedia Productions.
Second.
Motion made by Jay Leonard, seconded by Jennifer Tanner. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Madam President, if I could also just make a comment on these last two positions, that they both should be budget neutral, as one replaces a vacant position and the other will be eventually funded through advertising dollars. So we are looking forward to a budget neutral future in these positions.
Thank you for clarifying that. All right. Next, we move to action discussion item 4, recommendation to approve 2019-2020 revised expenditure budget. Dr. Kellis.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Hicks will introduce this item.
Got lots of questions for you.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Kellis, colleagues, and community members, there is nothing additional that I could add unless there's any questions from the board.
You should have seen the drum line when you were presenting that last time. They were
riveted?
They were, yeah.
Any comments or questions? I move to approve the 2019-2020 revised expenditure budget.
Second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Tracy Sawyer-Sinkbill. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to action discussion item 5, recommendation to approve advertising rates in Community Connect magazine. Dr. Kellis.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board and members of cabinet. I'd like to ask Mr. Dean to introduce this item.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Kellis, and members of cabinet. This evening, as we start to focus or shift our focus a bit with district magazine or publications, we'd like to begin to focus smaller editions of the Achiever each year, a smaller number of editions, and create a Community Connect magazine that would go to the broad community. And so this evening, Renee Ryan is going to present information on advertising rates for the Community Connect magazine and provide information along there as well.
Good evening again, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kellis, and cabinet. As Jim mentioned, the Community Connect magazine is intended to tell the stories of staff and community members making extraordinary contributions to the community. So we really do feel it will have a much broader appeal to non-parents as well. So they could have students that need a school, and we'll be able to reach more families in the community that way to share a lot of great stories. The circulation would be 90,000 households and businesses, which would actually be the largest circulation for any publication in this local area, which we're really excited about. And it would provide another advertising opportunity for local businesses. So the intent would be that it would be budget neutral based on that advertising offsetting those costs. In order to set ad rates, we did compare other publications similarly sized locally and other districts that have a similar type publication to ensure that we were in line, and of course taking into account our circulation. So we do believe we're priced competitively. And it should be noted we do have an advertising policy already in place that should cover any guidelines needed for the ads that might be placed. We are hoping to launch in April, and so we'd love to start selling ads in January if we get our ad rates approved. Are there any questions that I can answer?
And I would also add that we're looking forward to reaching out to local businesses, whether it be local car dealerships, local orthodontic offices, restaurants, et cetera, to provide opportunities for advertising in the Community Connect magazine.
Will there be some overlap between the two, though? I'm just thinking that some community members may not be parents, but just as far as being voters, wanting to, sometimes we've had some data in our Achiever, like pie charts and things, if those voters may not be parents, but they still want to know, like, where's some of this money going, or things like that. So will there be some overlap, even though it won't cater just to parents?
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this publication is intended to be very, the Achiever tends to push information to parents more about dates for the calendar dates, and here's how you get your lunch menu and all that type of stuff. It's more that type of information. This is supposed to be more story-based. But there can be some crossover in some of those areas, for sure.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear, too, it'll be budget neutral.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Any other questions from the board? Comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the advertising rates proposed for the advertisements in the District Community Connect magazine for 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Motion made by Jay Leonard, seconded by Tracy Sawyer-Sinkbill. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we move to action item 6, recommendation to approve certificated and licensed employee contract language and benefit packages for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President. Administration recommends the board table this item.
Any comments or questions from the board? I'll go ahead and make a motion that we table this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by
Real
Chris.
quick, when is it coming back? What, next agenda item? Or, I'm sorry,
Madam President, Ms.
regular
Tanner,
meeting?
the intent is that this come back in the first board meeting in January,
Okay.
the next board meeting.
Any other questions or comments?
Sorry.
I believe it was, motion was made and seconded, so please cast your votes.
Who was it motion made by?
Second.
I did not, I think it was
She
Jay.
did.
You did, didn't you?
I made the
recommend
motion
that?
to
She
table.
motioned, I
Yes.
seconded.
Mr. Leonard, second.
Jay, sorry. He seconded.
It passed.
I did? Oh, thank you. Motion carries. Move to action discussion item 7, recommendation for renewal of eligible certificated and licensed staff and authorization to issue employment contracts for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Callis?
Thank you, Madam President. Administration recommends the board table this item.
Any questions or comments from the board? I move that the board table this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to action discussion 8, recommendation to approve interim certificated employee contract language and benefit packages for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Callis?
Madam President, administration recommends the board table this item.
Any questions or comments from the board? I move the board table this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to action discussion item 9, recommendation to approve administrative employee compensation and benefit contract language for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Callis?
Thank you, Madam President. Administration recommends the board table this item.
Any comments or questions from the board? I move the board table this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Action discussion item 10, recommendation for renewal of eligible administrative staff and authorization to issue employment contracts for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Callis?
Madam President, administration recommends the board table this item.
Any questions or comments from the board? I move the board table this item.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Action discussion item 11, recommendation to approve classified staff notice of employment language and benefit packages for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Callis.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. Administration recommends the board approve the classified staff notice of employment language and benefit packages.
Any questions or comments from the board? I move the board approve the notice of employment language and the benefit packages for hourly and exempt classified staff for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Action discussion item 12, recommendation for the reemployment of classified staff and issuance of notices of employment for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Callis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. Administration recommends the board approve this item.
Any questions or comments from the board? I move the board approve the issuance of notices of employment to eligible classified staff in their current positions for the 2020-2021 salary level with benefits commensurate with the position.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Action discussion item 13, ASBA slate of candidates for the ASBA Board of Directors. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of cabinet. This one is a little bit of a unique situation. This item references the request from Arizona School Boards Association that the governing board approve the slate of candidates for the SBA Board of Directors. Should be noted, however, that no slate of candidates has been provided to the board. And the board has the option here to take no action, or the board could assign or select a delegate to represent the board and to vote on behalf of the board with the understanding that the board does not know what the slate of candidates currently is, but the person, if the board chooses to select that person, would vote on behalf of that board, given the slate of candidates that is presented at the next ASBA conference. It is a yes or no question, essentially. The slate of candidates that will be eventually presented will have one person per office that is presented, and the delegate would represent the board. The board could take no action given the fact that the board does not know what the slate is, and if the board is not comfortable presenting or selecting somebody to vote on behalf when the board does not have a vote to tell the candidate how to vote.
Based on that information, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking action. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding that item?
No, I don't.
So I would, Ms.
I understand that the slate of candidates will be known tomorrow, on Thursday. But it's usually after the nominating committee has gone through all of the people that they wish to push forward for the president-elect, treasurer, and the secretary. And it's usually one name, but we don't know if anybody's running from the floor or anything like that. So usually the slate of officers they've already been vetted through the nominating committee and those that have recommended those.
Do we have somebody that's going to be at the meeting on the 18th?
I will be there. I have to be there.
I think for me, it's just the principle of just not even knowing, the candidates haven't even formally been presented, they haven't been slated yet, and to take action to appoint someone or authorize someone to cast a vote, I don't know, to me, it's just it's a principle thing. So I would recommend we not take action unless somebody has strong feelings otherwise.
So is it possible, because of it being Thursday and not to be presenting until Thursday, would the board object to having a 6-minute telephonic meeting on Monday? Because the election and everything is not until the 18th, which is Wednesday? Okay. I mean, it would be
I'm okay either way.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
I would rather have a phone meeting or call a meeting than just
Yeah, I can't come.
identify someone to cast a vote without us knowing.
Just curious, is anybody else going?
I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm going, but I'll do whatever. with
So
the
after
board.
that meeting, do we still have the option to decide whether we're going to do nothing or push somebody forward? Or do we need to do that tonight?
Madam President, Mr. Leonard, yes, at that meeting, it would be a one action item board meeting, and the board could take no action or to direct a member of the board to represent the board at the delegate assembly, and it's not a delegate assembly, but it's at the
Business
conference.
meeting.
The business meeting to vote on behalf of the board.
You okay with that?
Yeah, my thing was just, I didn't want to blindly
Sure.
say, okay, go ahead and cast a vote, when we don't even know who the candidates are.
So we just need a scheduled time on Monday.
So if
Correct.
someone wants to make a motion to,
Madam President, we will post a meeting for Monday at 9:00 a.m. Anybody who would like to call in, we will make arrangements for that. And that way the board does not have to vote on a time and a place, but we will hold that meeting. It's the wish of the board.
so we still just would not take action if you're going to go ahead and post a meeting?
Right.
They're saying, okay. Okay, not hearing any other motions being made, then we'll go ahead and just not take action and move to item 14, which is discussion of action to set a date for an executive session for the superintendent's mid-year evaluation. Dr. Kellis?
Thank you, Madam President. This is a request by the superintendent for an executive session to be scheduled the second board meeting in January to hold the superintendent's mid-year evaluation.
I'm sorry, did you specify a date?
The second board meeting in January.
January 22nd. 22nd. I'm fine with that. How does everybody else feel?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay. All right. I move the board establish an executive session on January 22nd, 2020 for the superintendent's mid-year evaluation.
I'll second.
Motion made by Christine Pritchard, seconded by Jay Leonard. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. Next, we move to requests for future agenda items. Anyone?
Anyone?
Looks like it's going to be a two-apple meeting, Ms. Tanner. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. Motion made by Jay Leonard, seconded by Christine Pritchard. Please cast your votes.
That's all it takes. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.